effectively control the world through a command economy structure, you will own nothing and be happy. If only everything, all resources were controlled by a small number of people, a small number of companies. We absolutely have some nefarious actors that have exploited what has occurred. They are the ones behind this and triggered all this.
Just before we dive into this rabbit hole, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn the notification bell on. Robert, who controls the world?
Ha! I've been trying to figure that out myself lately. I don't know why, but there's a lot of interesting uh, publications and information and speculation coming about that. I, I think that we're in a increasingly a multipolar world, and a case has been made by many that it's a collection of about 250 different companies that are functionally in control. And on top of them are some major investment funds. Of course, we are familiar BlackRock's State Street, Vanguard, and Bank of America. But are they really in control, or is it the Bank of International Settlements? I think that this is an important question. And of course, now we're in this kind of multipolar fragmentation environment where we have the financial consortium that seems to have been catalyzed by the Russian government in some ways in response to the sanctions, and that is increasingly allied with India, China, and perhaps Turkey and a number of other nations in creating a kind of a parallel currency structure. And then there's the argument to be made that, well, oil is king, uh, and oil bucks are king. I I think that right now, personally, my sense is that we're in a period of transition where Pax Americana is passing, and we certainly have the rise of the CCP and their various interests, and we have the this transnational organization that I think is basically a trade organization of the 1,000 largest companies that we call the World Economic Forum, that is seems to style itself as a world government, and has is functionally creating its own treaties with entities like the United Nations and the World Health Organization.
And do you think that that structure is for the good of humanity?
I think that the demonstration of the last 3 years shows many of us that not only is that organization not qualified, but it is grounded that structure. And I assume now you've transitioned to speaking of the World Economic Forum. I shouldn't make assumptions. You mean the structure of this kind of fragmented multipolar environment, or what? Please clarify.
Yeah, how you presented the way that the world is controlled, that structure, however it's been created, is that for the benefit of humankind and the people?
No, I think that it's for the benefit of a relatively small number of individuals who seek power, control, capital, hegemony. It's almost as if we passed into a time when, instead of, with the possible exception of really even the CCP isn't China. Um, we have a collection of hyper powerful kind of transnational interests that seem to be seeking to dominate and control for their own interests. And it seems like humanity in general is given short shrift. And we have these discussions and thought leaders such as Harari that advocate this logic of another industrial revolution in which one sees the fusion of man and machine. and this isn't crazy talk. This is well, maybe it is crazy talk, but it's not a conspiracy theory. This is documented. Sapiens is one book, uh, and these people seem to envision something that looks an awful lot like a dark dystopia out of um, the Wachowskis' imagination or something. It's some cross of Terminator and the Matrix, in which we have I think the other one I need to do a shout out with is Bruce Sterling and the cyberpunk genre that have envisioned this world of mechs and shapers, which is kind of the universe that seems to be foreseen by uh, the German, British, and American military industrial complex, in which we have implantables routinely employed, and a combination of uh, biomechanical modifications of humans and directed evolution or genetic modification as one vision for the future of humanity. It is um, profoundly egotistic. It's the hubris is uh, almost overwhelming, but that does seem to be the logic. And it's a strange, having delved into this, the documentation from the German military, the UK military, the US military, particularly DARPA, in this area of transhumanism. Uh, it seems that the logic is put forward that our opponents are already doing it, and the inference is that this is the Chinese Communist Party and People's Republic of China, have no ethical boundaries in performing this type of developmental work with human subjects, and therefore we must do it. It's kind of the same logic as mutually assured destruction and thermonuclear weapons. They're doing it, therefore we have to do it. Of course, then that provokes their belief that they have to do it, and we get into a circular escalation of this kind of technology, in which breaching well-established biomedical ethical boundaries is just considered kind of a casualty of real politic and war.
I'd like to come to the convergence of man and machine and AI in a moment, but what would be a better, more utopic, not dystopic world order?
I think that I think we have a number of major axes going on here that, in order to answer your question, we need to kind of set the stage, or at least give some framework to be able to start to shape our imagined world, our intellectual world, our own ability to process what's coming at us or being forced on us. In my mind, we're increasingly the logic of a lower upper middle class structure is obsolete, and that we're increasingly in a world of physicals, virtuals, and overlords. And this is a logic and a language that's just starting to enter the mainstream right now. Physicals being people that work with their hands and actually do stuff, and truckers and physicians. And virtuals being those, the laptop class is the slang. Those that live in a world, typically urban, in which, and by the way, journalists are considered part of that, and in which it's all virtual information and there's no real connection with the actual world. As a matter of fact, a lot of these people seek to become increasingly isolated from what they perceive as a threatening real world. And then on top of that, we have this very, very small caste of uber wealthy that seem to be controlling everything, and increasingly trying to make the physicals obsolete through mechanization and this new industrial revolution in which it's believed there will be massive surplus labor, excess labor, these various words like useless eaters, uh, that is not really needed because of the automation and the effects of machine learning and deep learning. Um, and I think what the laptop virtual class doesn't recognize is that those folks at the top, which I referred to as the overlords, they're just as soon glad to get rid of the virtuals also. Somehow the virtuals seem to think they're protected, but they're going to be easily disposed of when the time comes. They're just kind of a useful tool in the interim. So I think we have to think about um, what is the nature of the world going forward now. And another key axis in this is the belief system that really goes back to the 40s or before. Um, uh, UN Charter is very much grounded in it. The World Health Organization Charter is grounded in it, which is the belief that it's necessary in order to solve the world's problems that we migrate to uh, a global government, and that the idea of the independent nation state is obsolete and it's a barrier to solving the world's problems. That's kind of that package. And of course, that's a core thesis in the um, what has been pitched as global warming, but increasingly the fallback position is climate change, because the data aren't looking so good in terms of being able to justify it as global warming, whether that's the effects of the volcano in the southern hemisphere or whatever, but the data are not coming in the way they're supposed to. Um, so this logic is that we need to migrate to an increasingly virtual uh, world of robotics, minimizing labor, and centralizing authority, power, political structures under a logic that is really quite old, a philosophical framework, that being really, to be blunt, utilitarian Marxism. And the idea of a command economy, the idea that a small number of entities globally can effectively control the world through a command economy structure. And they seem to advocate, and this is what's, of course, we've heard, you will own nothing and be happy. And no one ever really explains what's behind that statement. And it's just thrown out as a kind of a buzzword, or a rallying cry. There's actually a business logic behind it. It's a business model. You will own nothing and be happy. And one of the slangs that's used in the investment community is rent sinking behavior. This is the logic that resources would be more effectively managed globally in a densely populated world if only everything, all resources were controlled by a small number of people, a small number of companies, and they could be allocated out appropriately for the greatest efficiency in kind of a rent-based model. So this is akin to, and this is no surprise because a lot of the people advocating this stuff have roots in the software industry. And so just like when you get your Adobe package products, if you use Adobe products for your video editing or whatever, or you get your Microsoft products, you no longer buy those applications, you rent them. And so if you understand how, most of us have had to get Microsoft Word or whatever, and we're familiar with that kind of rent-based model. Um, that's the vision for the entire world, that all resources should be managed in that way. So to touch on a topic, you wouldn't own your Tesla, you would rent your Tesla or lease your Tesla, or for instance, if you're a Porsche aficionado right now, you can do a deal with Porsche to allow you pay a premium, but you can go pick up whatever Porsche you want and drive it for a while and then turn it back in and get another one. That's the kind of business model that is behind this statement. You will own nothing and be happy. And but it's grounded in a belief system that we need to have a smaller population. We cannot overcome the obstacles that we face globally in terms of resources. This is Malthusianism, right? That the idea that there's limited resources and people, we cannot innovate our way out of our box. We have no other we have no other pathway other than to reduce the global population. And this, of course, feeds into that other main meme that is so intimidating and frightening, which is global population reduction, which we hear so much about. And there's all this jibber jabber that vaccines are intended as a depopulation weapon. I'm not there, despite my having been blackpilled in so many other ways. But
what is your thoughts on the intention of? Well, what did you think about that? We went down some rabbit holes. I'd love your thoughts. Let me know in the comments. Obviously, there's so much of this episode we could not publish on YouTube. I don't want to get cancelled too. But on rob.team, my private members area, we upload all the content from people like Andrew Tate and David Icke and Robert Malone that we cannot publish. So if you like the uncensored full episodes, plus a whole bank of content from me for less than 20 pence a day, and you can cancel anytime with no ongoing contract, go to rob.team. There's a link somewhere below. Before you go, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn the notification bell on. And remember this, if you don't risk anything, you risk everything.